button. Okay, good. So I'm just gonna go ahead. So if anybody doesn't want to be recorded, know that you can shut off your cameras, because we are gonna, share this info session with whoever couldn't attend, okay? So just some information about me. So I'm, she, her pronouns, Ana Cândida Carneiro. I'm Brazilian born, assistant professor in playwriting. I'm a multilingual writer. I really highly encourage multilingual playwriting or intercultural writing. And I've been an immigrant for a long time. I left my country when I was 23, lived in Italy for 15 years, where I basically started my playwriting career, and moved to the US 8 years and a half ago. And I'm telling you this because it's important so that you know the perspective that I'm bringing, since I will be your main reference and mentor and advisor throughout the program. My training was a conservatory training. I'm critical to conservatory training type of thing. I bring a lot of humanistic views. My PhD was in theater studies in Italy, and focusing on experimental playwriting across cultures. And I also run a nonprofit called Babel Theater Project, which does interdisciplinary, collaborative, and transcultural work. And I'm it's very important for me, the work with communities. So our M.F.A is, or our university is located in Bloomington, Indiana. So state of Indiana, Bloomington is southern Indiana. It's a town of 80,000 people. More than half of it are students. So we are really highly immersed in this, let's say, academic community. But there are other communities around, and we are 1 hour drive for Indianapolis, 4 hour drive from Chicago, and 2 hour flights from New York, just to give you an idea that you can still reach places where, like, major theater hubs from here. And I'm sure that David can also speak to that, and how often he's been to New York and always connected to that area.
And I'm sorry, because I was about to I distracted you, Anna, when you told us to introduce ourselves. But I'm David. I use all pronouns. And yeah, we're now, the airport is, we're lucky because the airport is only like 45 minutes away. It's sort of below Indianapolis. So before you kind of get to Indianapolis, the airport is there. And it's always listed as a 2 hour flight, but realistically, it's only like an hour, 10 minutes. But usually the 2 hours includes like time you're waiting on the tarmac and all that stuff. But I almost always get to New York so much quicker than the 2 hours. I've been going back and forth to New York a lot. And Anna, let me throw it to you, Annalise, so you can introduce yourself really quick.
Sorry, I totally got lost in that. Go ahead, Annalise.
No, that's okay. So yeah, my name's Annalise Cain. My pronouns are she, her. I'm originally from Massachusetts, and I came to Indiana in 2020 to study. And I'm really glad you all are here. And I'm excited to share what I've gotten from the program, and also for you all to get to know Anna better, because she's new here, but I'm really excited with the vision that she has for the program.
Ooh, yay. Great.
But yeah, I've been having to go, sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I've been having to go back and forth to New York a lot for different projects. And If you don't mind flying Spirit, I know a lot of people mind Spirit, but if you don't mind, they have like round trip tickets to New York. They always leave like Thursday night and come back like Sunday, and like round trip for like 40 to 60 bucks usually. So the way I look at it when I need to go is like, that's cheaper than a cab ride to Brooklyn. So, you know, if I need to do it, I can just do it. So it's pretty easy to access. If you need to go to New York, Chicago too is a 4-hour drive. If you have a car, that's very doable. Yeah, so sorry.
And I wanted to hear from Annalise, who's very connected to the Bloomington community, a little bit more, if you can speak to that, Annalise. How is it living in Bloomington?
Yeah, so Bloomington is a pretty liberal town. It's like a kind of liberal bastion within the red state of Indiana. And I find that even though the town is majority students, there's like a lot of interesting like organizing work that's going on outside of the student population, or like working with them. So for instance, I live in a housing cooperative called Bloomington Cooperative Living. So essentially, like a group of people live in a house and we all take on the role of the landlord and we share it and make decisions around the house, including like maintenance and other like projects that we might be excited about. Like for instance, we've been working towards getting like asylum seekers to live in our house. So there's interesting work around that. What else is exciting in Bloomington? Again, there are grant opportunities that you can apply for while you're here. From the Bloomington Arts Commission. What else?
There's theaters in town. I work a lot with
there's theaters in town.
Constellation Stage and Screen. I've worked with them a lot, and they're doing a workshop of one of my musicals in the spring. So
yeah, I mean, they're very supportive of the students. Go ahead, Annalise.
Yeah. I think there aren't like there is Constellation. There aren't a ton of theater companies in Bloomington. So if you want to be doing projects kind of outside of the university as well while you're doing this, there's like a lot of room for multidisciplinary collaboration. And there aren't a lot of those connections that have been made just yet. So like it's very open for you all to do that while you're here, along with like getting in relationship with like the theater companies like Constellation.
And also I want to mention, because I just put is major centers, but we also have like Cincinnati, we have Louisville, which are, you know, sort of
I go to Louisville all the time just to see shows. I went to see a movie that wasn't playing here the other day.
So we're kind of in an interesting location, let's say, in that sense. Cool. And we can talk more about that later if you have questions. So I have some pictures of the campus. The campus is really beautiful. When I came here for the first time, it was very, very stunning. This is are the sample gates. And this is our theater center, where we have classes and where we have our facilities, our 3 theaters. Oh, someone is in.
I got it.
Okay. Okay. Oh, what's happening now? Okay. Here is our bigger theater, the Ruth Ann House theater, which sits 429 seats. Proscenium Theater. Sorry, the picture is awful. I couldn't find it. This is the Wellmets Theater, 236 seats. It's a flexible venue. And the Studio Theater, which we use a lot for new plays, in which the playwrights have a week of work there for independent project with I want to make actually officially credited projects every year. Just asking folks to maybe mute themselves so that we're not listening to voices. Okay. Annalise and David, do you want to talk about the space, like the spaces and the theaters?
Yeah, no, one of the cool things is we have access to this studio theater every fall. I'm sure Anna will work with you all for what dates and such you have this, but we're able to use this at least once a year to like put on a play if you want to self-produce one of your own plays, and we've used it a lot. So I mean, it's great to have access to this space. The biggest thing, the coolest thing I think about this program is that it's literally whatever you want it to be. If you want to come and, Annalise and I started a micro theater festival while we were here. Annalise does a bunch of site-specific devised work all over the campus and all over town. Like, I've done 2 productions here in the studio theater. If there's something you want to do, like, the sky's the limit. The coolest thing about, I think, the program is just the amount of resources you have. It's very like, what do you want from the program? And there's nothing stopping you from doing it. I lived in New York for a long time, and a space like this is $5,000 a week, to rent so that you can do something, and so you can put up a play. And to know that you have access to that like every year is just like a huge thing for me, to take advantage of that, because it's just so expensive to self-produce when you're outside of this situation. But literally anything you want to do, if you can dream it up and you can find students to work with it on you, or community members, you can do it. Yeah. Annalise, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah,
sorry.
do you want to add anything to that? Because I actually, what I wanted to add is that I really want to support you doing what you want to do, right? So we want your artistic growth, like the students' growth, and not just thinking about a theater space in the conventional way, but also the spaces outside, and thinking about performance in an expansive way. Maybe we can hear from Annalise now about her project that she just did, which was a site-specific devised work. Annalise, do you want to speak to that if you want?
Yeah, totally. So I was adapting this piece, this book called Aliens and Anorexia by Chris Kraus, which is like not a terribly theatrical text, is much more theoretical. And I'd been dreaming about it for a few years. And I knew that I wanted to do some sort of immersive piece around it. And it was about aliens and sorry about that. It was about aliens and this cult who believe that they're going to be taken away by the aliens and saved by the aliens from this natural disaster that's coming. But the cult's like really unimpressive. So there's a kind of goofiness to it. And a while ago, I was asking one of the dramaturgy professors, who doesn't work here anymore, but the dramaturgy professor here is really lovely and exciting, Sarah Johnson. But I was asking, like, what are some alternative spaces that I could use? Because part of the piece was very much about this like grungy, like, again, this not impressive cult. And I went to one of the buildings that she suggested, and they had some of these like beautiful exhibition spaces. And I asked, like, this is like really beautiful, but this piece is about like failure. Where do the failures go? And they were like, I know a place. And we went down to the basement, and it was like very, there were like all these hanging pipes, and it just like did not look like a good theater space at all. And I was like, perfect, this is exactly what I want. So like 3 years later, my last semester, I brought together some actors and I brought together some dancers and one person who'd never performed before. And I had like a vague structure in my mind of what I wanted to do in each room of the basement. And we devised together this very odd experience where at the beginning of it, we'd have the audience come in and we'd say, all right, we know we promised you a play, but we've actually been contacted by aliens. And we're working together to prepare you all to be taken by these aliens and to spread the word. And was really fun and interesting. We tricked two people. Two people like actually thought that that we were an alien cult, and one person left. So I'm very proud of that. But this also, some of this work, I don't think I would have been as confident or been able to approach something so so unconventional without Anna's experimental playwriting class, and without the support that Anna gave us around that. I think it's very easy when you're going into your M.F.A. to think like, okay, like everything that I'm doing is a networking event, and everything like everything I'm writing could be like the piece that like shoots me into like professionalism. But I think that the program works a lot better if you really consider this as a place to explore and try out new things. And like every time I felt overly frustrated with myself or with the program, it's because I'm putting too much pressure on it and not thinking about this space as like, okay, I have access to free space to try whatever I want for 3 years and to make connections here. So that's what I would say about the devising process and approaching like how to kind of mentally approach the M.F.A. Because like, again, part of the reason why we want to go is because we're like, oh, this is where we network. This is where we like really bring in and like networking in the very like capitalist notion of it, of like, here are the people with the big bucks who are going to produce me. And it's like, playwriting is just such a like, what's the word? It's like not long-term. It's like what is it? Long gaze. Someone knows what I'm talking about. A long gaze.
Long term, like a long, I think I understand where you're going.
Yeah, you just have to keep like things develop much slower and in their own time.
Yes.
The long game, playing the long game. There we go.
Playing the
That's
long
it.
game.
There's
Yeah.
something long. Length.
So I think this idea of experiment and having the resources is really like the goal of the program, right? To discover yourself as an artist as you move along. So just to summarize a little bit, what is this program, right? The nuts and bolts, let's say, so it's a 3-year program. It's a residential program. I think I didn't put, so it means that you do need to move to Bloomington and live in Bloomington to be here. That is because it's an intense commitment. You have classes that you have to attend, and you also work. It's a work study commitment. So there's a full production of your play, of your thesis play, guaranteed in your 3rd year. And the way I envision this is like we can work towards that in the 1st and 2nd year. Of course, I want you to write as many plays as you can and make as much work as you can. But like, so it is really about like listening to the folks who come into the program and like tailoring that. But a good progression could be, in the 1st year, do some readings, and in the 2nd year, maybe looking forward to like staged readings or other experimental trials. And in the 3rd year, so you arrive in a production mode, sort of to have your play fully produced on stage in one of the venues, if you want, because maybe you're a super experimental artist and you don't want to do that. But yeah, so there's plenty of opportunities to develop your work, as we've seen. We do have a lot of guest artists coming in. It would be interesting maybe to hear from both David and Annalise about Migdalia Cruz and the connection with the Fornes Institute and how that has played out in their training. But not only that, we do have guests. We had someone from Germany come last year. I have also someone from France coming in February. I just had the confirmation yesterday. That's news also for our playwrights here. So there's also like things happening. But can we hear a little bit about that? David and Annalise, if you want.
Yeah. And just before I go into that, just to touch on the residential, you do have to live here aspect. You have to live here, but also your summer vacation is 4 months. So you can you get to leave for 4 months. You get a month off during Christmas to go, so it is high residency, but really, there's like 4 or 5 months of the year that you also don't have to be here. So it's a give and take a little bit. But yeah, talking about guest artists, yeah, Migdalia Cruz for 2 years was, in residency here, and we got to do a lot of Fornés work during that time. It was really great. Annalise really has probably a lot more to say about that stuff, but the Fornés kind of work that we do at IU is really great, helps you open up as a playwright a lot. And gosh, I can't even, there's been so many guest artists while I've been here. Sherry Moraga, and I can't even name them all, but yeah, we've had a lot of great Michael Rhodes and other really interesting playwrights and directors.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank,
too, right?
lots of stuff. Oh yeah, musical theater. Yeah, we just had a masterclass with Patty Lapone. The musical theater program here is actually really good, and my thesis production that's coming up, we're in rehearsals right now, is a musical. Actually, I sort of made that decision on purpose because I also write musicals, and the musical theater program here is so good, and I thought, oh, I want to use all their resources to make them do a musical. So that's what we're doing. But Annalise, did you want to say anything about guest artists?
Yeah, I think so we did meet with Migdalia Cruz for was it 2 weeks or was it a single week? It felt like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it was a single week when I joined, but I know you've had some other stuff before, right?
Yeah. So go ahead, David.
No, I can't remember, but she came a lot and we did a lot of workshops.
Yeah. So she took us through a Fornés workshop. And for those who aren't familiar, Irene Fornés was a playwright, a Cuban American playwright, and basically taught a whole generation of playwrights, and founded initially the Latinx playwriting group INTAR. And she had a specific approach that kind of blended acting exercises, kind of sense memory work, I would argue a kind of spiritual work, and playwriting. So we have another professor in-house, Dr. Eric Mayer Garcia, who taught a Fornés class that was really wonderful and brought together directors and actors and playwrights to learn to read more of her work, but to also develop exercises and approaches to creating work inspired from her process. So when Migdalia Cruz came, she did workshops. It's spelled like F-O-R-N-E-S, but with an accent over the E. There you go. Thanks, Anna. I'm so glad we all know how to spell Fornés now. Yeah. If you take anything from this. But the workshop with Migdalia Cruz was especially helpful because Migdalia was one of Maria Irene Fornés' students. So there are a lot of scholars who kind of approximate her work, or approximate her process, but Migdalia worked with her specifically. So we got to go through exercises that were inspired directly from her experience with Fornés. And I actually I was writing one thesis play, but my brain and body just half of me wanted to write it, and the other half of me was just like, this is not the play, this is not the play, this is not the play. And so when we did a workshop with Migdalia at the beginning of last year, I ended up using the 10-minute play and the material that we got from that workshop, and I wrote an entirely different play for my thesis. which was very scary, but ultimately super rewarding. Especially because I think there can be a pressure sometimes to feel as though, again, you have to have this perfect piece, you have to be ready, it's your thesis piece. But that was a great moment to be able to be like, no, like I can like follow my artistic impulse as I need, especially in a space that's supposed to be serving like my artistic exploration. And Anna really went to bat through me for all that. So
absolutely, it was great and beautifully said. So yeah, so like in terms of framework, I'm gonna talk about the way I see teaching and the way I practice teaching, but as someone like creating this program, my interest is to expose you to all different ways across cultures, like not just my way, even though I will be let's say the main mentor or reference, not the only mentor, but the main one. I want to bring other perspectives, different perspectives to shape your view and will push you to challenge yourself in the way that you see playwriting, for sure. So something we cannot forget to speak about is At First Sight New Works Festival. I forgot to correct this one. It's a new play or new works festival that happens every year around February, March. And that's where you sort of explore and showcase your work. It's being re-envisioned. I think that this year we're having a fringe festival. Actually, this year means next year, 2024. We're having a fringe festival. We're having David, help me. We have not the undergrad shorts, but we have the At First Note with like songs from musicals. We have At First Shorts, which is short plays from playwrights around IU, and your plays. And next year we have David's plays at the center. And it's an occasion where we bring one or more guests from the industry. So that is connected to the point underneath, connections with the industry. And this year and next year, we're going to have Kent Nicholson, who is works at Broadway licensing and worked for many years in Playwrights Horizons new musical development program. David, do you want to speak, or Annalise, about At First Sight and your experience with that?
Sure. Just that you all, the playwrights and the dramaturgs, like produce the festival yourselves. So we start planning it pretty early in the year, and whatever kind of we want to do. The reason we're doing this year a short play festival, a fringe festival, and a songs on top of the other things in the festival is just because people had the ideas and wanted to do it. And so it's also I can't stress enough that this whole program is kind of like whatever you want to do and whatever you bring to it. And I know it hasn't come up yet and it's on this sheet, but you basically, when you're recruited to come here, it's not just, they're not just recruiting you like for your play or as a student. You, as one of the playwrights in the larger scheme of the theater program at IU, are actually one of the big leaders, mentors for the undergrads. The things that you want to do become the things that the undergrads end up doing, as part of their education. Like Annalise and I wanting to start a micro theater festival. Suddenly, all the undergrads now have micro theater, experience because they're the ones doing it. And so your ideas basically they affect the entire department, and whatever you want to do is totally, you can do it. And so I can't stress enough that it's like the At First Sight is just a it's a festival that is on the calendar every year. And what it is or what it becomes is basically up to whoever is producing it, which is
Mhm.
the playwrights along with the dramaturgs. Yeah. Yeah, one
Yeah.
of the dramaturgs really wanted to do like a fringe festival all around kind of campus as this is going on. So this year we're doing that.
In terms of admission, and I'm going to arrive to that, but I think it's really important that you know, the people that come know that initiative is crucial, and some like level of maturity in that sense, that you are like, the more initiative, leadership, and engagement you have, the more you're going to take out of the program. I think that's really important to know. Yeah. Annalise, do you want to say something about At First Sight or anything else?
I think David really covered it. I also want you all to know that my tech is going to break down in a little bit. So I might be gone in the next like 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
FYI.
Okay, let's cover the basics so that if folks want to ask a question, they can.
And you can also, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can email me
Mhm.
with any other questions if you want.
Yes, absolutely. So the possibility of internal grants, also there are internal grants for grads that can, you know, help you do work. And in terms of the stipend, so you have tuition remission, and then you have a stipend, and that should cover your like living expenses. That comes with a work study commitment, and it's important that we're like straightforward around that, in the sense that it's not that we're giving you a stipend. It's like you will be a student employee. So there's a 20-hour week work study commitment. That means you might be TAing, you might be doing like research or other work in the department, including teaching. So after the first semester, meaning from the second on or from the second year on, but it could start as early as the first year in the second semester, you would be teaching intro to playwriting to our undergrads, and eventually other courses, like David is teaching, or like for the second time now, David, a songwriting for musicals. Annalise, did you teach other courses besides intro to playwriting? I think you requested acting at some point. I don't know if you ended up doing that, or
I wasn't able to end up teaching acting, although like that is something that we talked about and people were open to. Or we talked with the professors about and people were open to. I've taught intro to playwriting 3 times, and I've taught a playwriting workshop once.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like a dance. And I've also taught script analysis, intro to playwriting. I taught script analysis and musical theater songwriting.
Mm-hmm. So this is important because one, I think that teaching is a great way of learning, you know, and but also builds your career, like your CV. If you're interested in this later, you could go into academic teaching if you want, or a teaching artist. Like track or opportunity afterwards. I think it's important. So, but you need to be interested in that if you consider coming to IU, because you will be doing that. Let's see what I have now. Oh, the curriculum. 60 credits distributed over 3 years. If you want to have more information about what courses are available, you can browse the university website. I know there was the curriculum was shared there, but if you don't find it, please email me and I can put my email there and I can send it to you. I am pretty much, let's say, responsive to the students' needs and requests. So if a particular cohort say, oh, we're interested in this, like writing for theater and for young audiences. Okay, let's create a course for that because this particular cohort wants that, right? Or other things. So there's a certain flexibility. So there's credits in history, theory, and literature. Courses outside of the department are encouraged, and maybe you guys could speak to that after I finish this. Independent projects and the development of self-producing skills are encouraged, and you have close mentorship from me. I'm always there to just support you along the way, and also I love to be in the listening of the playwrights and even identifying like talents or skills that you might not be aware of that, I would be like pushing you to explore. Yeah. Do you guys want to speak to the curriculum? Maybe Annalise, do you want to say something since you have to leave about, the sort of the things you've explored? I know like some of you have explored arts administration that you have loved as a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. So to be clear, like the program and the curriculum for playwriting has changed over the last few years because we've had turnover of the heads of playwriting. So like when we talk about our experience, this was the structure that we had, but things are going to be shifting. So we always have seminar each year, every semester, where we meet just the core of us, and we bring pages to read. We'll usually have assigned readings. Sometimes we've even had the option of like assigning readings ourselves to the rest of the class and then discussing work that we're excited about. But Anna in the past few semesters has put together curriculums or syllabi that like we're excited about for seminars. So like we were interested in learning a little bit more about theater for kids or youth theater. So we did a lot of readings around that. But she really tailors it, like what we're doing in seminar, to what our needs are, even on like a daily basis. So then in terms of classes I've taken outside of the theater department, I took more arts admin courses like Anna said, and I took a class in Germanic studies this semester. And that was very different. It was much more, I think this might sound a little funny to people because do we always call art applicable? But I found it a little less applicable than some of my other classes. It's called Wounded Heroes. And it was bringing a bunch of like Germanic studies and students and a musicologist or two. And we would read all of this like pretty intense theory and plays. And the goal is to like support everyone's research within the class. So it's a little less structured than classes that I was used to. But the connections that I've made in that class have been interesting, and looking at that approach is helpful if you want to be taking more classes outside of the theater department. But the professor has been super accommodating, where I'm like, I don't want to write a paper. I want to write a play. And they let me write a play. So for the arts admin courses, I took performing arts management, and I took curation this semester. And I took rural and grassroots arts. And I would recommend trying to get involved with IU Arts and Humanities, or the Center for Rural Engagement on campus, because the IU Arts and Humanities, like they're just a very tight-knit group of people. And I've found that having good relationships with them has led to kind of alternative performance opportunities, and funding opportunities. So I think, again, one of the ways that I've approached doing work here is just kind of going to people who are like, ooh, theater, we haven't thought about that. We'd like to do theatery things. And then usually people like the Micro Theater Festival we just completed last night, I worked with my undergraduate playwrights who I teach, and they were all assigned not just to write a 5-minute play, but to write a 5-minute play that was inspired and designed specifically for a space in this building on campus called the M.F.A. building. And it's a museum spaces are usually particularly excited about, or gallery spaces are usually particularly excited about these things because nobody wants to go there. So, or they have trouble bringing people in. So like last night, the engagement coordinator who I'd been working with was like, oh my God, like this is the most undergrads we've ever had in this building. Like initially they were like, I don't know, like, will the grimy theater students touch the things, touch the objects, the precious objects? But then they're really thrilled to have undergraduates even know that the space exists. So that's another thing is I would like, we do get access to space within the theater department, but because we have like BFAs in musical theater, and we also have like Bachelor of Arts students in theater, it can be hard to get spaces, or like you have to be planning things like far in advance. So I typically went the route of finding people who are just like longing to have their buildings activated.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you. That sounds good. And then folks can ask questions. Yeah, so a little bit about the way I teach. We're almost finishing, folks, but just like it's like I'm like, because I will be your main reference, I think it's important that you know like sort of my framework, and knowing that like you can get the mentorship of all faculty here, but you know, like the main course that you take will be with me, which is the graduate playwriting seminar. So I pay a lot of attention to global plays, global tendencies, not just in playwriting, but in arts in general, very interdisciplinary. I pay attention at the colonial work, meaning like global dynamics of oppression or power, if you want, and how to disrupt those through our writing and through our practice. I embrace embodied writing and presence work, meaning that I'm really thinking about writing as an embodied process and trying to stimulate that in the students. I want to embrace as many aesthetics and dramaturgical approaches as possible, rather than, you know, embrace one sole thing. And close mentorship, I think, is really important for me. I really love my wonderful writers that are here, and I will love the new folks that come all the same. Some other aspects that you need to know, I'm really looking forward to creating an alumni network so that we can all like, because it's a big transition when you go into grad school. It would be great actually to hear from you both, like what were the challenges, and you know, and now you're now moving out of grad school with this another transition. So like it's important for me to give support in that sense too. We have travel abroad experiences. As of now, I think there's one course that Linda is our head of the department, and she's a costume designer, and she has a trip to London that she takes the students to. But I'm working towards creating other experiences. IU has many other programs, many other institutions as and also centers that you can collaborate with. It's a huge university. It's kind of difficult to imagine if you don't feel like until you actually visit. There are beautiful facilities, etc. And there's a virtual tour that I can put the link after that you can visit. It's more catered to musical theater, but you can look a little bit about, you know, what it is. The application process, I'll go through this really briefly. Fill in the online application form that is available on our website. Send me one complete full-length play with 100-word summary at the top, because I will like scream a little bit, you know, in the first screening, and 3 letters of recommendation, a short bio, you know, like half a page bio, so that I understand where you're, you know, what's your work about, where you're coming from. Very important. I want to read your statement of purpose or objective. So why do you want to come to grad school? Why is it the right step for you to come to grad school in playwriting, right? I really value interdisciplinary work, you know, but if you're coming to grad school in playwriting, why here and why IU, right? So that's important for you to think about. Then the selected folks are going to be invited to a Zoom interview, and a final selection is going to happen possibly with an on-campus visit. And I'm going to select three people. International students are encouraged to apply. I know there are some international folks zooming in. You do need to pay attention to other requirements such as the TOEFL and the GRE, which are 2 exams, and you'll find more information on the website, on the IU grad school website. If you don't find, you can email me, and I'm going to post my email right here, right now. And I'm going to get out of this mode and allow you to have conversation with, ask questions. Does anybody have any questions for us? Sorry, I lost. Are you still seeing me? Hello?
Yes, we see you.
Okay,
We see
okay.
your home
Got it,
screen,
got it.
actually. You probably need to stop sharing.
Yeah. Okay, iu.edu. Okay. How do I do this? So I see there's a hands raised. How do I stop sharing now? Okay, stop share. Got it, got it. Okay, we have hands. Let's gallery. Let me see, folks. Okay, we have Ellie. Ellie, go ahead.
Thank you. This was great to get all of this information. Thank you for taking that time. David, I was wondering if you could tell us more about what it's like working on these festivals, what the process is like working with other dramaturgs and finding actors on campus, and what that community like, and what's the process getting together?
Sure. To plan these festivals, like I said, anything that you can dream up, you can do at IU. And yeah, let's see. To cast actors, to find actors, actually one of the more difficult things to do though is to find actors, just because everyone is spread so thin between, we do like 8 to 10 main stage productions a year. And then on top of the main stage productions, there is an undergraduate, basically like a community theater, but just for undergraduates. It's like 40 years old. It's called the University Players, and the undergraduates self-produce, self-direct, star in their own season of shows. Which actually I think is super cool, and they get so much experience. But between those two things, and a lot of the students also being in the local theater shows like Constellation, and also we have a third season, which is this season of independent projects. Those are listed on the website under, if you go to On Stage and then click on independent projects, you can see our season of independent projects. The playwrights always are part of that. So your project is like, it's like this other third season of the things you self-produce. And so by that time, a lot of actors are taken. So one of the things that is difficult, obviously not impossible, we do it, we get it done, is casting for those projects. So you kind of like gotta announce it early. You gotta like look for the students that you know that you're thinking of ahead of time, like track them down, tell them about your project, rope them in. One thing that I think is important for everyone to know is that Indiana in general and Bloomington and this campus are a very it's very white area. I don't know the exact statistics, but it is a very white area, and a lot of your students on campus are blonde hair, blue-eyed. So if you're writing plays that are like specifically for, like a lot of my plays are specifically like Latino plays, it has been an extra layer of difficult to cast those plays. And what I ended up doing is, as soon as I got to campus, I knew someone that was in this program before me, and she had already told me that. So she was like, as soon as you get there, reach out, reach out to the Latino campus organization. There's a Latino campus organization, La Casa, which is great. She's like, go there, go to their mixers, start meeting people, get down on the ground, boots on the ground, and meet the people you're going to need for your plays. So I did, and actually made tons of friends that way. And there is an organization on campus through the Spanish department that's called Vida, which is like a Spanish theater club that produces an event at the end of in April every year. So I met them, someone introduced me to them, and someone introduced me to, there's a Spanish music program in the Jacob School of Music, so someone introduced me to them. And so I just kind of had to get creative in my casting and meet people. That did add a layer of challenge where sometimes you end up sort of having to train people who don't have as much experience, just because you need, like, I needed Latino actors. I had to train sort of people that weren't as experienced on how to be in a show. Does that make sense? But yeah, there's you do have to do a little extra work when it comes to casting. I don't know if that answered your question. As far as planning festivals, it's literally just like email the people you think of, go visit them, knock on their door in their office. So I had this idea, and I've been wanting to do it for 3 years, and I've just never had the time for our At First Sight New Play Festival to do an evening of new songs. So I finally was like, I'm going to commit to it because it's my last year and I want this to happen. So I need to email like the musical theater. I haven't done it yet. I need to email the musical theater department, see who there wants to help. I think it probably would be good for me to email like some of the musical theater kids that I know are not in either of the spring musicals, who maybe have a little more time to take on a project, and see if they want to help me produce it. So like, it's very like grassroots, feet on the ground, gathering a team for everything that you want to do. But you can literally do anything you want to do as long as you're willing to put in that boots on the ground work. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, but we are also working on sort of diversifying, I don't know if you mentioned that because I went away for a sec, but yeah, anyway, let me give
and I think
the
that
space to Julia.
we share our, I'm sorry, I know you called on Julia. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We share our building with the Neil Marshall Black Institute, and they're a great resource. And there's a different, there's an Asian American institute on campus. There's a whole bunch of different people who are great resources when you need to link to communities. So I'll just say that too.
And there's the Black, Brown, and Beige Theater Troupe, David, that you are president now. I don't know if you mentioned. Okay, good. Julia.
Hey, thank you. I had a question that was also for Annalise, but I think they left. But yeah, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your routine. And I know it changes a lot season to season and year to year. But I was wondering, with the teaching and producing your own works and workshopping your works and trying to cast people, especially for musical theater, I'm sure that's a lot of work. Yeah, I was wondering if you could give a general overview of your routine right now.
Well, my routine right now is different than it was. It does change every semester. So you kind of have a hand in planning it, but pretty much you can guarantee that every Monday and Wednesday afternoon, you'll be in playwriting class. Monday afternoon is the semester specific playwriting class. Like this semester, it's a devising class, playwriting devising class, and analyzing like sort of climate justice plays and stuff as we devise and write plays. So that's on Monday afternoons, and then every Wednesday afternoon is your seminar. I think that is pretty much, you can guarantee on that block. And then, so you take 12, you can take 9, you have to take 9 hours a semester, and you can take as many as 12. So that's either 3 classes or 4 classes. And the ones I just mentioned are 2 of those classes. So that's 6 hours. So then you can take 2 more if you want, which would probably be in the mornings or on Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday in the morning or afternoon. So that's going to depend on that. And then you'll also either be TAing or teaching, and then that's going to be based on that. Now, the people who make that schedule, they always check in with you to make sure that the schedule you want is not going to like interfere with what they schedule you to teach, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And that happens every semester. But then on top of that, once you get into productions, and also you're allowed to like audition if you're an actor, like you can audition for the main stage shows. If you're, I know Anna mentioned this a little bit, that you take other classes outside of playwriting, but like if you know you want to be a playwright director, you can sign up for all the directing classes here, you know, so you can sign up for directing classes, you can sign up for like the acting classes, you can I've been taking the arts management classes. I've been taking like fundraising for the arts and all that, and those have been great. But if you want to focus on directing, you can take the directing, you can take whatever. What I will say that was the biggest adjustment for me for grad school was the amount of reading, like so much reading, so much so that every single morning, like from 8 a.m. till like I get to campus at like 11 or noon, I'm just reading. You know what I mean? Like all of that time is like just reading all the texts and theories and new plays. You read probably like 2 new plays a week. You know, depending on how many classes you're taking, every class is probably going to ask you to read a play. So if you're taking 4 classes, then you're probably reading 4 plays a week, or, you know, plus theory and stuff. So it's a lot of reading. That's sort of the biggest change. And then once you get into productions, then you have rehearsals in the evening. So you get out of class at like 4, you know, you depending on the day and your schedule, you get out of class and then you have to be back for rehearsal from 7 to 10:30. So it can be a lot. It can be, but it's, I know grad school is supposed to be a lot and it's supposed to be transformative or whatever, but you do have to find some kind of schedule. Some people like to get to school every day by 8 a.m., even if they don't have class, just so that they can sit. You do get your own little office cubicle. So a lot of people like to just like show up to their office and like work from there, read from there, whatever. But the schedule is definitely going to change. Right now, I have class only Monday, Wednesday afternoon, and then I teach class Monday, Wednesday morning. So I actually don't really have a lunch break on Monday, Wednesday. And but Anna's been very kind to let me eat in her class, her playwriting classes. So I eat while we're, you know, talking about plays and such. And I teach script analysis from 11:30 to 1, and then I have class from 1 to 3:30 with Anna. And on Monday, Wednesdays, Tuesday, Thursday, technically, I don't even have to go to campus right now if I don't want to. So, but I also have to write, you know, I have a lot of writing. So I have to write, you know, like 10 to 15 pages, 10 to 20 pages really for my Monday writing class, you know, every single week. Plus, I'm doing crazy rewrites of my thesis musical right now. We've started rehearsals for my thesis musical. So I'm in rehearsal every night from 7 to 10:30, and then we have a meeting afterwards, and I'm there till 11:30. So I've been leaving late till 11:30. And then in the mornings, you know, I'm doing rewrites. I've also been doing rewrites. I have a play that's going on in New York right now. If you're in New York, come see my play. Aztec Pirates opens in December. So I just, you know, you need all that time to like do all the work for your classes, to do the writing, to do the reading. So your schedule is going to change all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, just to comment on that, yeah, it can be challenged. It is grad school, so it's not just, like having fun and writing. No, there is that like that said, I am like supportive of like mental health and health as a whole, and well-being is in the center of the way I think things. So I'm really gonna, want to make sure that folks are not getting burned out, and like it's part of my way of teaching also to incorporate mindfulness if you want, and some advice on health. Because we live in a culture that once sort of is a little bit of a meat grinder. So yeah. Anyway, good. Let me provide space for Ramnik. Ramnik, am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, you're pronouncing it absolutely correct. I have three questions. I hope I can ask all three if it doesn't take up too much of time of everyone.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
The first question is, so I am a playwright and director, and I teach at university here in India. So I have been teaching for about 5 years now. So I'm wondering, because so I'm wondering if one can also direct shows which are not necessarily written by you. Is that possible while you're doing an M.F.A in playwriting?
You can direct. I think you can do whatever you want, but the thing is, like, within the structure of the program, that's not really included. So I think you have to consider, if you want to apply for the program, that you will be focusing on the writing. And it's like, I don't want to give that wrong idea, right? That you're going to go in. So it's like, if you're more interested in the directing side, I would apply for the directing program, because then you would have a lot of opportunities for like developing as a director, right? So I think there are opportunities for you to direct your own plays. I mean, nothing is against if you want to direct one of your cohorts plays, and you want to shift, or I think that things are always possible. But I think it's important to reflect what you're interested in, really, because if you're already teaching playwriting for like 5 years in a university, what would be for you the benefit of an M.F.A in playwriting? Do you understand? Because maybe for you would be better the directing if you want to, and we do have a program for directors. I think and they're gonna have a new cohort, right, David? I think
Yeah,
next
they're
year,
taking
if I'm not
applications
wrong.
too.
Yeah.
They take
So
they also take 3 candidates, and they direct most of our main stage shows are directed by the directing M.F.A candidates.
if you're interested in that program would be the one to apply for, if you are already like solid in your playwriting, because right, because like to dedicate 3 years for the writing, it's a big commitment, right? If you want to direct, that would be more on the side, it's not the focus of the thing.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that and say you can take the directing classes if you're in the playwriting, and you can certainly direct, because I've directed a lot too while I've been here, and I directed my own one of my own shows, and Annalise directs all of her own plays. If you're wanting to, to like go back to your question, can I direct other people's shows, other plays? Yes, you can. Like Anna said, it would be on the side project. Like you could direct, you could, if you find you have the time, you could go and direct a play, anywhere you want, or even at the local community. Whether they would let you direct the main stage shows, I think if that was the question, I don't know if they would, only because they have promised those to the directing M.F.A. Does that make sense? So though you could go direct anything you want in like your own independent projects around campus, around town, you may not be able to direct the main season, main stage shows. But you could take classes. And then also, if you were in the directing program, you could also then take playwriting classes, if you wanted to. So sort of, and you could, the directors also get their own like independent projects every year. Some of them are like required, like one of them has to be a musical, one of them has to be Shakespeare, but like you could potentially direct your own work for a directing thing too. So I don't know, it's if that answers the question. There's a few like, because these programs have like rules and stuff that like that would be barriers of that, but yeah.
I think that was a really good answer, right? Because it's about if like what you're trying to direct and what you're trying to achieve, right? But go ahead, you wanted to say something.
Oh no, I thought it was your answer was complete. I thought I was just going to go ahead on to my second, third question. But if you have something to say, I'd love to hear that.
No, go ahead. I can add later.
So the second and the third question, I'll just say it because then actually the second question is a very short one. So you mentioned the difficulty of finding Latino actors. What is the difficulty of finding South Asian actors, for example? And the third question that I have is, one of the big problems of directing in India, especially if you're doing work that is heavily political, which is challenging the dominant discourse in society right now, is that we have a crypto fascist in power, and it means I mean, I'm concerned about the question of censorship, and I'm generally concerned about the censorship around the question of Israel-Palestine in the US, and what happens if you want to make a play which is critical of Israel, and especially given that Indiana is a red state, and with what kind of censorship could that censorship come from the university itself? Could that mean one getting expelled mid-program because you made a play which was critical of Israel? These are important questions to me to ask beforehand, rather than find my visa canceled in the second year or something. So
yeah, so I can answer to that. Well, I will I think as a student you are protected in the sense that you know, and I will protect you in the first place, as someone who's trying. I'm not saying that there aren't challenges. There are, but I think that I think we all value, and I stand for freedom of speech, and and artistic freedom. So I think that if you're trying to make that type of like political theater and discourse, I would hope that there's like space here. But we are in a conservative state, right? So that means that there might be some like discussion and some like turmoil, right? But also the university is like committed to like diversity and academic freedom. And I think that if someone would try to stop a play like that, they would have to have a lot of discussion. And I think that David has a play coming up right now that has a lot of like political content. Let's see how much do we share about that. So there is a lot of political content, but it's against the law, would be against the law to try and stop that play,
I will say tensions are very high. You're not wrong. Tensions are very high around the United States right now, specifically with this topic. And tensions around the university are also high. There are paintings all over campus that say like people painted on sidewalks and painted on bridges, Free Palestine. And then other groups came and painted over them, and then they got painted again, and they got painted over, and they got painted again. So tensions are high. It is a university, so freedom of speech is currently still very important. I know that when a fascist state does, take over completely, that goes away even at universities. So that is something even especially universities are aware of and are keeping an eye on. However, I will say there has been a little bit of resistance against my thesis project coming up, which I never expected. I'm completely blindsided by. Not by anyone on campus, but by some local community members who I guess read the blurb and are concerned about the topic and are trying to get the show canceled. And it has gone up to the provost and of the university and everything. And what the university is giving me support, and they're saying they're not going to allow the production to be canceled. And they've cited several of their laws and several things that protect me. So it shouldn't, I don't know. So I would say that your concern is, it's a real concern that I think all artists right now are having. A lot of my friends, even in New York and everywhere, are concerned about this right now. So I think it's a real concern. As of right now, the university is supporting me. So I'll just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, this is a very hot topic, I am also concerned, but it's as, let's say, someone who, inserted in this institution, and I will be supporting folks in their artistic freedom,
Can I just, since I know this is being recorded, so I just want to say,
I know,
that, my intention was not, I wrote this piece before, the events of October 7th, and the piece is about the cycles of Tytler's theory of the cycles of democratic societies, and it's set 10,000 years in the future. So it's anything people bring to it is what they're bringing to it, is what I'll say.
Yeah, and again, the way I see things, it's if we have space in the season for, a play that is about anti-Semitism, we could have a space in season, about, for a play about anti-Muslim hate or things like that. So I think that it's all to be discussed, but what I want to tell you is that it is challenging, when you do political theater, but I want to be there for the folks who are doing that work, and I think there are other folks who would be supporting you.
Thank you. Could you perhaps address my question on South Asian actors?
Oh, yes.
All right.
There is actually a pretty big population of South Asian students here. My last roommate was from India. The guy I was dating was from India. But as far as how many of them are actors, that I don't know. It would be very similar to me scrounging up, Latino actors who don't have as much experience. So I know there's a whole Indian dance club, so maybe you could go to the Indian dance club event and, find performers who also want to act and stuff, There was an Indian actress in one of my shows last year, in my sketch comedy show. So I know I will just say you're probably gonna have the same difficulty I did finding Latino actors, but there is a community here. Several really good Indian restaurants. There's an Indian dance club. A lot of exchange students, I think, from India.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and correct.
Thank you. Thank you for answering the questions.
Any other questions that are arising for you all? I know it's getting late, so but take advantage of this opportunity. Yes, go ahead. Ali.
I really loved hearing about the environment that welcomes experimenting and play and trying new things and being site specific and being immersive. So it makes me wonder, to both you, Anna and David, what you feel like is theater now and what is theater in the future? Like, where are we now? What are we moving towards?
Well, I can answer for myself, and David will answer for himself. For me, is really about interdisciplinary work. I see playwriting really expansively, you know, and then I would say that I'm interested in exploring what happens to writing as we intersect with, you know, other forms such as dance, such as, you know, performance art, and as we create bridges, let's say. So I'm really interested in redefining what playwriting is. And I will sort of push the students to experiment a little bit, you know, which doesn't mean that they like to go against what, you know, they are, but to at least during those 3 years push a little bit more and challenge a little bit. And then, you know, you can go on and do whatever you want. But for me, yeah, like for me, the future of theater is transcultural, is interdisciplinary, is you know, sort of crossing borders for sure. David, do you want to say something?
Yes. And I also want to get to is it Elena or Elena Hansen?
Ellie.
What was that?
Elena or El? I'm seeing Ellie. Ellie asked the question.
Okay.
There's one in the chat too that I
Yeah.
think
So I want to get to
Oh,
yours.
there's one in the chat. Oh,
But yeah, where I see it going, honestly, with how expensive it is to produce theater, how like impossible it seems to get anything like just off the ground, and how everything's a commercial failure, and now there's not even nonprofit money is disappearing, which has been the thing that's supporting theater for so long. I see theater going in the direction of almost like theater of the oppressed, or like what makes theater is that like we can go put it anywhere, and like, you know, hey, let's just meet in this room and bam, we put on the show here and we make the magic ourselves somehow. And you know, it's this collab. That's what I see. And also I'm interested in like what is the virtual, what is the what are those things that I don't know. But one thing's clear is it's all of these old sort of systems and big theaters are like failing left and right, and something's got to give, something's got to change. I don't know. But and then to answer Elena's question, how many plays do MFA playwrights typically write per year or semester, particularly in the main playwriting seminar? Sure. So I believe that Anna's answer, we've actually never talked about this, but I don't think Anna has a specific set number that you have to write. But I will say that in my experience, I've written like a play a semester, you know, maybe more. I've written a bunch.
I think that would be the like an amazing goal to have, right? Like to accomplish like a full draft each semester. But also I want to welcome, you know, like I don't want to enforce that. I think I said yesterday in the meeting like that I'm not here to grade anyone or require folks to do something, but I think that at that level you are already artists and you're going to be writing as many plays as you can, you know, and you know, thriving in that process. So I'm also welcoming where you are in the moment, you know. I think that I might have caught David and Annalise sort of along the process, right? Because you're so so like at times like David goes back to plays from other classes, right? The other day you brought in a play that you started in experimental playwriting, and then you're like, oh, I'm feeling like finishing that play, and then he brought that play, you know. So it's not that I'm going to be requiring you start a play and finish a play. That's not how it works for me, you know, but I'm going to be listening to, and I'm going to be listening to how, you know, sort of how creative you are, where you're at. I'm going to be checking in a lot and sort of making sure that you are growing in awareness as a writer as you move along the process, you know, and sort of, oh, I have a writer's block, you know, then I'm going to have to address that, right? Because it's like about unlocking those things and making sure you're always bringing something in, you know, which could be a second draft, which could be a third draft. It could be, oh, I'm having a reading next week in New York, like David has now. I need to do a rewrite, and then we read the play and we discuss it. So it's really also really tailored for the playwright in that sense and the needs in that moment.
Yeah. On top of that, like when you do have a full draft, or you know, or even just an act, a lot of time the dramaturgs have their seminar the same time as us, and so often we will join together and read the draft together, like take the whole seminar to just read a draft and then get feedback with dramaturgs there and stuff. That happens, you know, once or twice a semester per playwright too. And then the other thing is, when you have a draft, again, you can just email Trish, who, you know, who books, you know, the rooms, rehearsal rooms and stuff, and just say, hey Trish, I want to do a reading, can I get a room? And like, and then just gather actors and just do your own reading. I think one of the biggest things that sets this program apart from other programs is there's other programs which, you know, you go through your whole 2 or 3 years of this M.F.A. and you get to the end, and then all you get is a staged reading, you know, of a play, and like that's all you get from the school. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to do a stage reading, I could do one next week. Like I just book the room and hire that and like gather actors. Like that's not a big deal. I can literally do that at any time you want here, you know. But here you get the chance to actually self-produce full plays, and then you get an actual main stage production where you actually, where one of the coolest things is you work with you know, designers, and you get to work with a costume designer and a set designer, and like the play grows and you have these conversations and you get to be in rehearsal, and that's such, I think, a pivotal experience of playwriting, that because plays have just become so expensive to produce in the real world, I think, you know, you get the chance to learn that here, and you don't get that in every program.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I want to say is that the program and the whole curriculum is under, let's say, discussion right now. So we're meeting among faculty, like heads of programs, to make it more collaborative, because I do think that as it is right now, it could be much better in the sense of like playwrights interacting with directors and actors. So there have been conversations with the head of acting to bring the actors into the playwriting seminar, and David is not aware of that, but it's like to bring them in so that we have readers out there and they're getting credit out of there, out of that experience, right? So that's being talked about. Also other ways to intersect the program, so make directors work more closely with playwrights since the beginning. Now, I cannot promise you that, but I'm working towards that, right? If that makes sense. So hopefully there will be a devising class in the future with playwrights and actors, you know, and playwrights and actors and dramaturgs, you know, to really working toward this more fluid sort of instead of siloed division of the programs, right? Just to be really transparent about that. Okay, any other question? We are 1 hour and a half. I think we could say bye. And if you have any other questions, you can email us. and we'll be happy to answer. I think we had a great session. Thank you okay, thank you everybody. Yeah. So we wait for your applications, okay? Sending lots of love to everybody, and thank you so much. Okay, I want to read you and I want to support you, and I wish I could offer 10, 20 spots for people to come in, but okay, good. Love you. Thank you. Bye-bye.